So most people know that the P. Diddy stuff, the Epstein stuff, much of it was done for blackmail reasons, right? They drug them, they get them to do something, you know, sexually, because they're so out of it on ketamine and whatever else they're giving them. And, you know, they rape them, and they're doing this to kids, but they're also doing it to the wealthy. I mean, that's what Epstein was all about, too. Doing it with politicians and leaders all over the world, and then blackmailing them with it. But there's another side to that, too, though. And that's especially when you do it to some, well, I guess it wouldn't matter. But is that, and it's the most disgusting trick the devil would play, too. And not even a trick, just to cause such disease in the world of pedophilia, I mean. Is that, you know, there's not all people that have that happen to them go on to obviously become pedophiles, but there's a percentage that do. So do you see how by doing that to as many people as possible, it not only, okay, you can use it as blackmail, but you can also, you're taking innocence away, and then especially if they're younger, you will cause that in some cases to then continue on and become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, to where then it's a worldwide pandemic problem, which is why you should call into question this, not that people aren't that are awake, but that the CDC, HHS, all the medical and nursing associations, because if they were ethical, that would be the pandemic. It should have been the pandemic back in 2020, because that's when many people found out about it. Found out about much of it was in 2020. Some people knew long before that. Some people knew when Trump got into office, but the majority of us found out most of it in 2020 and realized, no, the true pandemic is pedophilia, trafficking, both. And the reason it's so bad is when you have your people like Epstein, and then you have your P. Diddy's, and you know there's more of them out there. You know there is. They're repeating the cycle, so then you're going to have a percentage of every time it's of more and more and more and more and more created. It's exactly what something wicked would do. Because then you have more people that will go on and do the same thing. Again, not all that are abused do that, but I'm just saying there is a percentage. I don't know what the percentage is. I mean, it's not like we have an ethical medical system, because if we did, they would totally be addressing this. They would put aside the viruses and people having to wear masks when we have handled the flu for decades and don't have to walk around in masks. They're showing that they're just about control, and they're just about wanting to keep people focused on COVID and keep people focused on, oh, you need to wear this mask, you need to listen to the experts. But these people aren't experts. They're not even close to experts. I mean, not even close, because if they were, if all these medical people at the top were such experts, or any, then they would realize, no, what's wrong with HHS and CDC and all of the medical and nursing associations, that they are still focused on viruses and masks, when really they should have a long time ago been focusing on the pedophilia pandemic, the trafficking pandemic. That's far worse than any virus. And that spreads too. As I said, because a certain percentage then go on to do it as well. So it would be something you'd want to stop. The only reason you wouldn't want to focus on that is because you yourself at those organizations are pedophiles, or likely pedophile protectors. But in either case, you're not experts. Do you see how the people that are heading up our mental health, our medical, our nursing, everything at the top, are not at the very least, they're not expert either way, because they're not doing the right thing. The flu is something we have dealt with for decades and decades and decades. To now turn around and pull this control mechanism over people, which is all it is, that, oh, you don't get the flu vaccine, so wear a mask, shows that you're just continuing to try to deflect, which is it makes you look complicit. At some point, you look complicit, because you're supposed to be the medical experts that pay attention to these things. And but because you're Bill Gates, Bill Gates was on Epstein's Island. And he wanted everybody to focus on viruses. So did a lot of other people. Elon Musk said recently that when he bought Twitter, he said when he bought Twitter, he didn't realize he was buying a crime scene, because of all of the rich, wealthy people that are involved, which is why many of them are globalists, which is why many of them don't want Trump to get in. So you see how at every level, at the top anyway, but even at all the association levels, somebody at those association levels should have at some point said, well, Epstein, they should have been able to put the pieces together. And I don't doubt that they could. It's just that they're all corrupt in those positions. Because the pandemic is pedophilia and trafficking. And it was back in 2020. And it still is. What was the last count? There's 183,000 children that have come across the border that nobody is able to account for. That's a lot of children to then traumatize and do something to. And anybody that's looked into it, it's even worse than pedophilia, right? I'm not going to say it because can't say it. But, everybody is being seen for who they are at the top. This is why people want CDC eliminated, HHS eliminated, or at least they have to be cut down like 95%, because look at how none of them can do the right thing. Look at how none of your medical or any associations, whether even mental health, but any of them can do the right thing and focus on the true pandemic. It's like they're wanting to keep people focused on masks and the flu and COVID, because they're helping the pedophiles by deflecting healthcare workers, when really they should be informing them. Now, they would say, no, we put papers out. Yeah, a paper here and there they'll put out about it. I looked into it back in 2021. But anybody who knows how widespread, it's a global pandemic. It's far worse than any virus. So if they were ethical people, if they weren't trying to help cover for pedophiles, then they would be making. If they were legit agencies, then that's what they would be making as the priority. They should have done that in 2020. They didn't. They should have done it a long time ago. But they continue to show that what they want to do is actually keep healthcare workers that maybe haven't looked into anything, keep them deflected. That this is what's more important. No, don't pay attention to that Diddy stuff. Just keep worrying about wearing your mask and worry about the flu and COVID and the next virus. Yeah, because they're complicit. They are. You mean to tell me those people that we're told are experts are this stupid? No, they're complicit in covering it up to help to try to keep as much of the medical profession from knowing what truly is the pandemic and what truly should be being addressed. And it's not people wearing masks. It's that if they were ethical people, if they were experts, if they weren't trying to protect corrupt criminal syndicates and cartels and the wealthy that are pedophiles, then they would have done the right thing a long time ago when it came to trafficking and pedophilia. They don't.